and welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, listed in 2020 as number 8 of 42 best podcasts for every sales professional. I am your host, Janice B Gordon, the customer growth expert and author of Business Evolution, Creating Growth in a Rapidly Changing World. I created Scale Your Sales framework to develop leading edge capabilities to secure, retain, and grow key customer relationships for long-term value and partnership. Join me each week to learn from amazing B2B sales and business experts and influencers. Tune in for actionable insights and strategies. Are you ready to scale your sales?
My next guest is co-founder and CEO of Lately. Lately is the only social media management platform that creates content for you with the power of AI. Welcome to Scale Your Sales podcast, Kate Bradley Chernis.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's a pleasure.
We've already had fun and we haven't even started.
Clearly.
Oh dear. So I am really keen to find out about your rock star lifestyle. Tell me more about this.
Right. I'm a recovering rock and roll DJ, as they say. So I did have a former career in radio, right? Remember radio, people? My last gig was broadcasting to 20 million listeners a day for XM satellite radio, which was a wild ride. It's where I met my husband, actually, because his band was our favorite band of the year. So kind of a job hazard. You know, I used to date all the musicians coming through. And I found a good one. Thank God. But yeah, and what was interesting about that career, Janice, was I was really lucky to come up in a kind of radio where, for the most part, we were still not at XM, but elsewhere we were live. So I had the understanding of live radio, which is really stressful, actually, because you're trying to get. We used to pick our own music also, which is a different thing. So you're trying to get everything up hot on time, just like being in a kitchen. I was also a line cook in another life, and that idea of the magic of things coming together in that moment, segues. Pushing the buttons, all the things, but leaving the magic, leaving the mistakes as part of it, celebrating the mistakes, making it human. That's what live is, right? Right. We were just doing that, just me and you.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I've learned, and I'm sure you've learned this as well. This is what human connection is all about. Yeah. You don't want me to sit here and just ravel off a straight line of things I'm reading to you. Right? Like nobody, when we call customer service and that's what they're doing, you can tell when they're reading the script and you just want to like stick a fork in someone's eyeballs. You want all of the zaniness that comes with it, right? So that was one of the best things I learned about radio and the theater of the mind, right? So just so for people don't know what that means, that's in reading and in radio, you have to participate as a listener or a reader to help fill in the blanks with your imagination, right? So TV is for the mindless, they say. Radio is for the imagination.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect. I like that work is required, which is, I don't think most people do, Janice. Most people in general want to push a button and walk away. But
it's interesting isn't it, really? I wonder if they want to push a button and walk away because they haven't found the right button. They're not really in the right slipstream. Because when you're in flow, when you don't want to stop pushing the button. It's energizing to push the button, really. So right. I think a lot of people are doing the wrong job.
Yes, for sure. And that's tough because we've all been in that place where you feel stuck. I personally was until I was incapacitated by the stress of it, actually. And my body forced me to recognize these words. I love my 3 favorite words. Are you ready?
Yeah.
This isn't working.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you admit that, it's like you've given yourself the permission to change the channel.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's easier to change once you admit it.
Yes.
And it's almost like the universe is sending you. It's like, that's a relief, right? I've been telling her, finally she's listening to me, and now the universe is sending you all this great stuff.
it's true. When you open that door, all the doors open. It's like you've set this ball in motion, and you've got to lean into it, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
wisdom
tell me
wisdom.
about leaning into lately then. So that was a door that opened and all of the things came flooding in.
Right. So I've always needed some catalysts in my life to help me make that change, more or less, and in Lately's case, it was a friend. Steve Blood was a friend that I'd met through other friends, and he's my co-founder now, and he was a serial entrepreneur and a venture angel, and he knew this world. I didn't know it at all, and he was like, these spreadsheets that you used I used to have an agency, so I got Walmart 130% ROI year over year with a series of spreadsheets that ended up becoming the baseline for Lately. And Steve kept asking to see them. And I thought he was meddlesome. He was harassing me. He always wanted to like see all my spreadsheets. And finally he was like, we just need $25,000 and we can turn the spreadsheets into software and automate what you do. And I was like, okay, first of all, don't touch my spreadsheets. They're awesome. What? And then $25,000. I worked in radio, Janice, like not really glamorous on the money front. I ate ramen and $2 chuck. So that's that, Charles Shaw wine. I think now it's $4 a bottle, right? He ended up taking the $25,000 out of his own pocket and doing what's called a wireframe. A wireframe is like a blueprint for a website. So you can kind of get the idea of how things function together, and came to my house and showed me. And I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him, Janice, I was like, he's like, okay, are you ready? I'm going to take you into this venture capital world, which I didn't know anything about. And I was like, oh yeah, but the only rule is I have to be the boss. And he laughed and he's like, oh, no problem. I don't want anything to do with that, because he knew, Janice. He knew the stress involved, right?
Yeah.
So off we went.
Wow. So tell me, let's take a step back and talk about the spreadsheets and how you got that 130% for Walmart. What was it in the spreadsheets that did that, and how did you come up with this?
Thanks for asking. It was a really unique project, actually. So it was Walmart and all of their franchises, and then the Walmart Foundation, and then United Way Worldwide and all of their local chapters, and then Bank of America with their franchises and AT&T with theirs. So it was actually a combination of global businesses and small businesses and nonprofit and for-profit, and the IRS here in America, so government too. So it was a very unusual combination of people. There was a good cause that everyone was involved in, and wanted to participate in the marketing of, but we wanted to be unified, of course, because consistency is what rules in marketing, And so the first thing I did was I just organized everything in my own mind, from my own mind, in the spreadsheets, and they became like a Bible of sorts. And the content was part of the thing, because everybody was creating their own press releases or their own blogs. And I was like, wow, we gotta I feel like this is getting wasted. Nobody even knows that all this is out there, and why don't we all use it together? And then number two, like let's get the message, on point. So, one of the things that had just recently happened then was social media. So this is like MySpace. We were just moving away from MySpace.
Yeah.
I'm old. Okay. So awesome. So no one wanted to write 1,000 social posts and have Walmart approve them, because it would take forever. So I thought, well, let's take a blog that we already wrote. Walmart has already approved it. Let's look at each sentence and quote the sentences so they are more like a movie trailer, like a teaser into the full thing. And so if I go through this blog, I can find 40 great sentences, just massage them a little bit, add a short link, and now we've got 40 social posts that we can drip feed over time, right? And all of them are different, even though they're all promoting the same thing. So you get that variety, which everybody likes, right? And boom, 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 Walmart approved them because I already had. And then we could, I created a way to disseminate the content out to it was about 20,000 players in the end. So at that time, that was a manual thing that I had done, right? the way that Lately works is to use artificial intelligence to do two of these things. There's two parts. There's the automation and the syndication, right? So splitting up a blog, for example, automatically and finding the quotes, whatever, and then syndicating out to hundreds or thousands of employees. But the thing that the AI does that I couldn't do on my own as a human was it studies whatever social channels you connect, and it looks at the posts that have the highest engagement, and it looks for the keywords and the phrases and the sentence structures, and it builds a writing model based on what it already knows your customers want to read, hear, and watch, and it pulls the quotes based on that, Janice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the magic. So that's how we get, like, we work with customers like Gary Vaynerchuk, and that gets him a 12,000% increase in engagement. Because that AI is smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's great that you took a step back to actually, so we can clearly understand what Lately does from its source and why it's so exciting. Yeah, it's interesting.
Thanks.
You mentioned Gary V, and if he's all over it, then then that's quite an endorsement, really, isn't it? Because he has so many people following him, and he's not going to waste time on things that aren't massively effective. I mean, he is larger than large, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and the pillar method is where he stakes his claim, and this is the same idea. Like, why waste what you've worked so hard on? The reason we met Gary, by the way, was when we started doing this with video clips, and not to be a commercial at all, but I'm constantly thinking, how can I reuse what's in front of me? So not just a blog, chapters of a book or a white paper, a newsletter, but why not this podcast here?
Yeah.
Like, let's transcribe it, find the best one-liners that you or I say, and then match the video of me or you saying that and make a social post out of that, right, too. And that's what tipped the scale with Gary.
Yeah.
And most of our other customers, well, it's so interesting, Janice, to see, what's the spark. We talked about why push the button, right? That's what you had said.
Yeah.
And as a startup, you're constantly adjusting and learning, hopefully, right? That's how you win, and listening and watching to what people do, what gets them exciting. And you have to have the nimbleness, because it changes. Times change. COVID, we saw this all, right?
Yeah.
But the video was the thing that made people understand what we did, because I just described it to you, and that is complicated. It's convoluted. I'm not good at it, but suddenly I don't have to anymore. I can just show you Gary V's Twitter channel, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I'm really interested in you. We talked a bit about the stress of starting a business, getting it off the ground, growing it, and what is the thing that you would love to offload?
Oh, wow. Being gaslit. The gaslighting that I endure is crippling to me. It stops my day.
Yeah.
And I endure it from unlikely places, sometimes externally and sometimes internally.
Wow.
And I'm dealing with it today, and it's so, gaslighting is so dangerous, because I suffered from it my whole career, because my default is to run through my brain, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's the default for many women.
For women especially, it is.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time in that space going through all the things you didn't do wrong, and that's demoralizing, of course, right? But what's more demoralizing is when you realize it wasn't you at all.
No.
Especially when it's from people you care about, who you like, who are on your team.
Yeah.
Who are in your inner circle.
Yeah.
I
often, the Scale Your Sales podcasts are of, I have more than 50%. The aim is 50%, have more than 50% women, and a good 20% ethnic minorities, people of color, because in business, in sales, we're the invisible, really. There isn't enough of us, and I really want to make sure that our voice is heard. So I always ask the question around diversity and people sharing their experiences. And it's interesting how people may answer that. But one of the things that I often say to people is that women often say, well, you don't get support from other women. And my view is that we're all brought up with the same biases. That, you know, like, so from school or parents, you know, girls should be this, boys should be that. So if women are told that as well as boys are told that, so boys will treat women in a certain way, and then we're surprised when women treat women in a certain way.
Sure.
Hang on a moment, we've all had the same information, really.
It's true, yeah.
You know, so, you know, a lot of, it's really hard finding the support networks of people that are willing to talk about it and be open about it. And, you know, just by talking about it, I would hope that more people, whether men or women, come on side and understand. You and I will have been in situations where we've said something, we've been the owners of our own companies, and if there's a man with us, the man will get spoken to, will be ignored.
Yes, of course.
Or we're sitting around a table, we say something, and then a man more or less says the same thing, and it's, oh,
yes, of course.
It's like, hang on, man, didn't I? And you kind of, you need to, and you don't want to be the, like, for me, it would be the angry black woman every time I say something, you know?
Yes.
God, boring. You know?
It's
so
true.
You don't want to be labeled, you know, you got a chip on your shoulder and stuff. Actually, we need more men and women to be vocal, because often things happen that they're not even hearing themselves. They don't know the ramifications of it, and they don't know how much it hurts.
Yeah, and to your point, a woman friend taught me this, is that it's the onus of the person on top to lift others up, which means the conversation, and you just said it, the conversation can't only happen with underdogs. You have to include the white guys, right? For example, because they're who we need to lift us up. It's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
And you know, believe me, I know. I say that I have a resting bitch face in writing, which is why I have to use a lot of emojis.
Yeah, me too.
Right?
Me too. But often that's a personality, like Myers-Briggs. So I will be, if I'm answering you know, if someone tells me I'm answering it, and I read the email afterwards, and I think, well, I haven't done the nice bit. Hello, how are you? I have to add that in second, move the bits down.
It's totally true, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, you asked me something, I answered the question. Why do I have to do all the niceties? But, you know,
you do. And, you know, I don't think men do that. I have to practice that with investor communications, especially because they want you to be cool and control. You don't want to be seen as just desperate or needing the money. And so somebody taught me a good trick, which is with investor communications, generally speaking, don't use punctuation because you don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You don't have time for a smiley face or a hello. You're so busy. That's what you want them to perceive, is you're so busy with your business, which is,
and also
weird.
When you do certain things, it's like, well, a woman's doing that, then it brings in all of their biases. And if a man wouldn't do it, then women shouldn't do it in that investor environment, because they are so biased and geared against women, perhaps.
Yeah, it's true. Like in even to, as you mentioned before, women as well. Like so, in my world, female founders only have 2% of all of the venture funding.
Yeah,
2%, which is amazing. So that means I have to work 98% harder than a white man. Black women aren't even on the spectrum there, right? Like they're not even.
That's a negative.
It's shocking. It's shocking.
Yeah.
And you hear it. There was a TED talk around this, which I found so fascinating. So I'll give you an example. One of the questions that venture capitalists, the kind of questions that they'll ask men are about, how are you going to grow the business? When they'll ask me, how are you going to prevent churn? How are you going to prevent customers from leaving? Right? See that? The negative version.
Yeah.
And the onus is on me to figure out how to answer the question and turn it around and give them the growth answer.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a lot of work I got to do, you know, and it's annoying to me because people, they want you to dance. Everyone wants you to dance. They want you to do the elevator pitch. They want you to do your demo day thing. They've seen it on TV, right? But and I was taking someone to task on Clubhouse about this recently. They don't take the time, this is back to the human element, to stop and ask me a question. So, because I don't get it right all the time, Janice. I don't get it right most of the time. I'm a human, right? I've got other things going on, and I'm not thinking about, like, I don't need to be obsessed with how to dial into your personal idiosyncrasies. Like, this is a two-way street, investor. You need me and I need you.
Yeah.
So you need to take the time. Like, if I didn't vomit it all out in my 30-second elevator speech, ask me more, right? Because they've scienced it to death. And this applies to everything. I feel like, whether it's startups, thanks to what's that TV show, Shark Tank.
Yeah, right? Shark Tank. Yeah,
Shark Tank, or or America's Got Talent, or any of these shows, right? There, everybody's trying to like science it out, and we've done this with music as well. Right? It's so electronic, or every hit is the same hit because people stop playing album rock. DJs don't listen to records anymore that come from the labels. They look at the charts. That's what they do, just so you guys know, right? So the reason everything feels canned and robotic is because it is. And COVID has helped us. This is the best part. There's a mind shift that was coming already, but COVID forced it. And you've seen people step back and want the magic, right? Because we missed it. We missed this human connection.
Yeah.
Right? It was more apparent than ever before, is that we were short selling ourselves on something very basic, but incredibly necessary. We can't procreate unless we have
We've got to be in the same room.
Yeah, literally. So anyways, sorry for the rant there.
No, it's really interesting. I think we've got so far to go in terms of parity, just like fairness, core values. There's so much has happened. Me Too, Black Lives Matter, all of this. But we've still got so far to go. So I really want to talk to you about enabling buyers to buy, because I thought it was really interesting, your view on this. Your view on how you treat treating your small customers in the same way as large customers. I really wanted to get your view on that.
Oh yeah, and it's so funny. Some people don't like it, which is so interesting because they don't want to connect.
Yeah.
But we've learned that making evangelists is the mission, not making a customer, right? So because an evangelist goes out and sells for you, and they're yours for life. And I learned that in radio, right? That was my job on the air. I was really good at well, I guess B2C is that case. And part of that is by being myself and giving people that permission to get into a space with you that's surprising, right? So we've done this today. We zigzagged a few different places, right? And that gives people multiple access points. Number one, when you open up conversations about the weather or where you live, all those kinds of things, right? So finding what those touch points are. And it's not just a rote act of like discussing what you had for dinner. The common ground is the everything. It's the everything, right? And so when you know that it's the not sell, right? Go in for the relationship with an objective to make the person work for you for free.
Yeah.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that, knowing that's the deal.
But they want to, don't they? They want to. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a 98% sales conversion, Janice, because this is how we treat our customers before we meet them, after we meet them, how we treat each other internally in our team, right? So we're constantly thinking about like, life is hard. Let's whatever you're surrounded with, whether it's your job, as we mentioned earlier, whether it's the software you're buying to do your work, whether it's, your friends or your family or family, you don't have a lot of choice around, but like, why not make it all something that makes you feel great? And if it doesn't, it's not working. This isn't working. Right?
Yeah.
Like shift it,
Yeah. So can you tell me how you go about that? Just,
Yeah. So the hard way is the way, right? So we do a combination of the AI and then some manual things. So the first thing we do is we auto-generate all of our content. I don't care if I do a lot of podcasts. I don't care if there's 2 listeners or 20,000. This is content for me, and I'm going to use it as lead gen. So I'm going to ask you for the file. We're going to put it through the AI. The AI is going to clip up all the cool things we said. We're going to publish them out over time, a drip feed. I've taught my staff to add in the human elements. Like I gave them a guideline of my voice, basically, which is also our brand voice. We publish it across our employee channels. So it's a syndication across the whole team, right? Because we're stronger together. And then we watch you like, share, or comment, whoever does. Those are warm leads. They're not cold leads. Forget cold. It's cold. Sucks. It's annoying. And then we have conversations about the weather or whatever else, get that common ground. And our KPI is the demo. So the demo has that 98% conversion rate. So we know that's what we need to get. And as soon as we get you in there, then we can, move you along the process. And again, the hard way is the way. Like we take the time to get to know you, to get to know your company, to train you on Lately, like I've trained my staff, right? So there's a lot expected here. And it works. And we believe it's the new way, cold calls, cold emails.
I think that's really interesting that this is the way to go, actually really identifying who is your sweet spot and having that process where they almost self-identify that this is for them, and all you're doing is leading them along a journey so that you do get that 98% success rate. Yeah,
because they're hot by the time we get them,
Yeah. We're going to have to get you on again. There's so much for us to talk about.
I would love to. I know, I'm sorry.
For us to talk about. No, don't be sorry. It's been absolutely brilliant. Just a quick one. If you're on a desert island on your own, what's one thing you'd take with you, Kate?
Oh boy, I guess I would say garlic.
Garlic.
I should probably say something more sentimental, like my husband,
Do you know, I suppose it's therapeutic, isn't it? It's medicine, it's food, and there's something in garlic, isn't there? And you might ward away the insects or something. That might be quite a good one, actually, Kate.
Note to self, don't get lost on a desert island.
Yeah, exactly. So how can listeners get hold of you?
Thank you so much, Janice. I have loved meeting you. We're at www.lately.ai. I'm on LinkedIn at Kate Bradley, linkedin.com/Kate Bradley. Please connect with me. Tell me that you met me at here with Janice, and we'll become fast friends. And I won't try to sell you anything. Watch out.
That's fantastic. Thank you for being a guest on Scale Your Sales podcast, Kate. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really loved it. Thank you for sharing and being so honest.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Scale Your Sales. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, Janice B Gordon, to comment and share. I'd love it if you would leave a review on ratethispodcast.com/scaleyoursales. Please subscribe for more weekly expert insights to scale your sales.